Okay, in this episode I'm going to do a very straightforward how to add a lightsaber effect to your Star Wars toy photography. In this instance I'm adding a lightsaber effect. It's a very simple Darth Vader photograph. I like to add the lightsaber blade effect over the plastic blade of the toy, which I do by adding a layer, and then I paint the blade on with white with a hard brush. So if I select the paintbrush and we choose white for our color palette, start at the hilt, select the spot, and then if you press shift and click again, you'll complete a full line. I think that's true in both Pixelmator and Photoshop. And then we get that white blade over the physical blade of the figure itself. And then what we want to do is we're going to want to duplicate that layer now. So I'll rename the layer lightsaber just to stay organized, keep my space organized. And then I'm going to duplicate that. So Command Shift and D will duplicate that layer, and I'll do that again. So we've got three versions that we're going to hit with a Gaussian blur in order to provide that glowing effect. So we'll go to our effects browser and drag Gaussian blur in, and I'm going to hit that with a 5 pixel blur. That's the base layer. We'll do the same to the second layer, but I'm going to up that to 15 pixels. So you can see it now slightly getting more fuzzy around the edges. And then we're going to go and we're going to hit the top layer there with a 40 pixel blur. And now you can see it's really starting to get its glow on. And what we're going to do now is we're going to put below that, we're going to put another layer, just drag that below. And this is going to be our black fill layer. This is going to enable us to blend the layers with the photograph, the base layer, the background layer. So I'm going to paint that black layer in, and then we want to merge all 4 of those layers. And you do that with Command E, and that will blend those all together. So now we've got that white glow effect on the upper layer, and we're going to blend that with the image layer using screen blend mode. So anything that's black disappears, and we're left with what we initially created, which is that blade effect. But because we've used screen blend, we can now manipulate the RGB elements of this layer. So initially what I want to start to do is I want to make that glow a little brighter. So I'm going to use curves to punch up the glow of that blade. That should do us. And then we're going to go into red, and we're going to pull the red right up so that then you can see the quality of Darth Vader's lightsaber blade. Now that would do the job. That's more than sufficient really as a lightsaber effect within your toy photography. I think that looks really quite effective. But what I like to do is I like to go a little bit further and add some glow from the blade onto the figure's body, and in some instances onto the background. So what we'll do is we're going to add another layer, and we're going to go in and we're going to paint with red the areas that we want to appear to have glow from Vader's blade. So we want to go in with a nice soft edge brush, quite large, and we're just going to paint over the area of that figure that we want to have that red effect. So this is what it looks like, just going in quite heavy handed to the areas that I think may be touched by a light overspill from Darth Vader's lightsaber blade down that arm as well. A little bit rough. So obviously that's not sufficient. So we'll pull that underneath the lightsaber blade, and then I'm going to use a blend technique. It's not screen this time, but soft light. And that sort of reduces the effect of what we've just painted on. Now, that's still a little bit harsh, but if I can use this technique, I'll add a mask, and then I'm going to use a gradient over that mask to obfuscate everything I've painted on, apart from in a very limited space. So you can just sort of see that red creeping through that layer mask now. and it looks more like a soft glow than the harsh painted on effect that we started with. Now I'll just drag curves onto that red, and I'm just going to punch that brightness up a little bit using curves just to make that a little bit. I could have used a brighter color red when I did the painting and would have got the same result, but there we go. So you can see it's a little bit rough around there. I've overspilt a little bit onto the background. So I'll go back into my mask. I'm just going to refine that slightly with a black brush and make that overspill invisible just by painting out the areas I don't want to be included in the final image. Sharpen up, and just on the top of the arm there, so I'll just sharpen up that image until we get where we are. Until we get where we want to be. I do still think there are some areas on Vader's face mask in particular, and some elements of the armor that will benefit from a little more overspill. So I'm going to go back into my red layer with the paintbrush, select red. I'm going to paint some of those areas back in. Now don't be too concerned that you can't see much of it. It's because of the layer mask that we've applied, and we've used that gradient, radial gradient on it to keep it invisible. I'm just going over the areas that I believe would be hit by red spill, and then we'll refine our mask a little bit more. I think that's probably all we need. So I'm going to select the mask, I'm going to select white, and then when I paint over the black mask with white, it's going to reveal what's underneath it, which is this soft blend red highlight that I've added to simulate the glow from Vader's blade. And that looks good. I think that's pretty much the effect I was looking for. That glow up onto the chin of Vader's mask, I think is looking really good. So that is effectively it. That is adding the lightsaber blade to your Star Wars toy photography with a little ambient light reflection back onto the figure to really sell the effect that is a real lightsaber. Okay, that's it for this episode. I'll speak to you next time.